I'm Fred Eichler, and although there are 6 different subspecies of turkeys in the world slam, my favorite by far is the Osceola, found in only part of Florida. They were named from the chief of the Seminole Indians, and his name was Chief Osceola. So not only is it a unique bird in a unique area, it also has a unique name. When you're hunting Osceolas, you have to be prepared for a few things. One, odds are the mosquitoes and bugs are going to be all over the place. So it's good to be prepared for ticks. It's also a great idea to have a thermocell with you. Another thing about Osceola turkeys is they get predated on by all kinds of different predators. Not only predatory birds like hawks and owls, but also the Florida panther, coyote, bobcats, and a myriad of other smaller predators. So that means they're always looking out for anything that doesn't look right. I like to hunt them out of a blind when I'm hunting with a bow because it gives me the advantage. And even though you don't often have to brush it in, I prefer to. I like to make the blind look like the environment. So I'll use a lot of times palmettos, natural brush to make my blind disappear and blend in with the environment. If you're bow hunting, a blind is a great idea. And like I mentioned, I like to brush it in, but I also like to use a large broadhead. An open on impact is great because in the thick brush, even if you make a fatal shot and the bird runs 10 to 20 yards, sometimes recovery can be difficult because it is so thick. So make sure you use a broadhead that's shooting accurately out of your setup, but also has a wide cutting diameter. If you're going to go with a shotgun, I advise making sure you know your equipment and you also are very familiar with your pattern and what it's going to be at 5 yards and what it's going to be at 40 yards, because you may have to make a very difficult shot in some thick brush. Osceola turkeys are also less vocal than almost all the other subspecies of turkeys. Now, I'm not saying they don't gobble and they don't get excited and they won't triple gobble or gobble from the roost, but I'm saying generally, especially on hard pressured public land where I started out hunting Osceola turkeys and where I took my first one, they can definitely be a lot quieter. One, that's from hunting pressure. Two, it's also from the amount of predators in South Florida and the thick brush. You can imagine in the thick Florida brush, if a gobbler is gobbling all the time or a hen yelping all the time, it makes it a lot easier for a Florida panther, a bobcat, or a coyote, some of their top predators, to sneak up on them in the brush. So because of that, the birds tend to be less vocal once they drop out of the trees. Now, do they still gobble for the ground? Of course they do, but be prepared for a bird that's not as vocal as some of the other subspecies. Well, Osceola turkeys also have a very bad habit of slipping in without making a sound. Because of the thick brush and a lot of the hunting pressure, they've learned to sneak in really quiet and check things out. So be prepared to see just a little bit of movement, and you've got to always be ready. As always, like with any hunting situation, always think safety first, be very aware of your target, and make sure you have a safe background. Well, I've hunted Osceola turkeys with a bow and a shotgun with decoys and without decoys, and both ways can work great. Osceola turkeys sometimes, because of the thick cover that a lot of times I hunt them in, will just pop up and look around, looking for the bird that's making the calls. So a lot of times you can get a shot without a decoy at all. In certain cases, if I'm hunting 2 tracks or little open areas in the swamp, a decoy can be super handy for positioning the bird exactly where you want it. I usually use 1 or 2 hens. Sometimes I'll go with 3 depending on the situation. A jake is another great way to bring in an Osceola turkey. Now, have I used gobbler decoys? 100%. I've got a Montana decoy with real feathers in the fan that I've had Osceola gobblers come in and absolutely attack. But I prefer to go with a younger bird like a jake so I don't spook any of them. Some birds are more dominant than others, and I prefer to bring every bird into my decoy spread. Well, if you've never hunted Osceola turkeys, I hope you'll come to Florida and give it a try. It's a beautiful country, and you'll be going after a pretty unique bird.